Here.
And Mayor Bob.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay. First order of business, public comment for items not on the agenda. Any cards?
I have no speaker cards.
Okay, moving on. Presentations, informational items, and reports. Any presentations tonight? See any?
Somebody coming in?
I have no speaker cards. Just are some on that share. No hot sheets.
Okay. No presentations tonight? I don't have to read any.
No proclamation.
Should we ask him if he has something off the
Did you
agenda?
want to give our late arrival a minute to see if he had something off the agenda?
Oh, if you're here in time.
He was pretty darn close.
Is this public comment for items not on the agenda? Correct. Okay. Introduce yourself, please.
My name is Larry Berman. I'm a resident of 29 North Street. I also wear my gal 108 East 3rd Street. Two items that I wanted to address. So I ran over here realizing I was almost out of time. Number one, I noticed that the ambulance that often parks in town had been speeding rather rapidly without the sirens on a run back from going out on a run, and clearly exceeding the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. I did approach the driver and mention to him that it was, I realize that when you go out on a run, when you come back, your adrenaline is still probably going, but that you needed to kind of keep the speed limit, under the speed limit, especially with the number of kids that roam around. And I've probably become a little more sensitive now that I have grandkids that come and visit me. But I don't know if there's anything that can be done. I just wanted to bring it to the council's attention that I've noticed it quite often. I don't know if having the ambulance based where it is, and I know he comes tearing down 3rd Street with lights and sirens if that's necessary. I know he parks in front of his house, the driver. But 3rd Street being as heavily trafficked as it is by pedestrians, that's necessarily the best practices. So, number two, this also speaks to code enforcement and best practices. During the latest antique fair, the night before, when they were before the fair, I noticed that the entire block, with the exception of one 7-foot space down by Donna Marie, had been blocked off for booths. And according to the code, at least I went and pulled it off the city's website, on every block there should be 2 7-foot sidewalk access points per block, and they should be equally spaced. And this hadn't been done, at least on my side of 3rd Street between Franklin and Washington. There was no real, I guess I'm out of time here. I wound up spending all night sitting outside the store trying to block off a 7-foot section. Eventually was able to convince them to leave an access point, but not before one of the block sergeant-at-arms attempted to create a physical confrontation. So I don't know if there's a means of
Mr. Mayor,
doing it adequately, but or redressing the issue, but to make sure it doesn't happen in the future.
if I can respond to Larry.
Sure.
We got your email, and Matt and I are preparing a letter to the Rotary calling their attention to it. They should, they had copies of the ordinance when they took out the permit, and they were supposed to conduct that accordingly. And they also was instructed to, before they set up a booth in front of a merchant's, they consult that merchants before and give them the opportunity to take and occupy that space before they rent it to somebody else. And so we will be back with the Rotary advising of this situation.
It's just,
Yeah.
I'd have no problems with the Williams folks. This was the first time.
Yeah.
with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you very much.
And we will make sure that they get this the email. Yeah, so.
Or just one more. When you approached the driver there, how was his attitude towards it?
I said, looked like you were doing about 50, because I was trying to get into my car, and I got pretty much blown off my feet. And he says, I don't think it was doing 50. I said, well, you weren't doing 15. He says, yeah, I know I wasn't doing 15. So he didn't deny he'd been speeding, but my concern is just, I know we don't have any means of traffic enforcement, but at least when it's an ambulance driver, he needs to be sensitized to that. So it wasn't a confrontation, but...
Oh, that's good.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I'd like to make one quick comment on that, because I was also downtown and spoke to the Rotarians, and they considered they had 2 spaces as far as they were concerned. And I kind of agree with them that they had 2 spaces. I don't like the fact that it got confrontational, but our esteemed guest did not consider the driveway next door to him to be a legitimate 7-foot space, although it was left open, because it was a driveway. And the Rotarians considered that 7-foot space plus the other one further down the block. So as far as they were concerned, they had 2 spaces. So when you craft your response, you might want to consider
Note that.
that.
Yeah, right.
That
And then the other aspect is that I think Larry pointed out that the lack of contact the merchants to give them first right of refusal, and that's drafted into our
yes,
ordinance. Yeah.
that is
That's
definitely, and
important.
I'm surprised really that more businesses don't take advantage of that,
Yeah,
because the ones that do really seem to like having that pathway into their store
Yeah.
to use.
I will note that on the next block over, they actually had 3 7-foot access points to the area where the blocked off parking, whatever you call it. So it's the area across from the bars.
The orchard.
That block had 3 7-foot access points. I would argue that the driveway, it's a private driveway, it's not a substitute for an access point at that end of the block.
Okay, well, Roger will take care of it. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that
Roger
out
will
when you
take care of
crafted it.
Okay, moving on. Treasurer's report? You are.
Good evening, Council Mayor, staff members. Just to touch base on the Treasury report. We're in our first month of the new cycle, and we're ending up to closing out the books, and hopefully we'll bring you some kind of update on how we did last year in terms of our budget versus actuals. It's coming. I'd like to say that the enterprise funds to date results are there's a positive profit in that right now. We're doing well, and that would be like our water and sewer funds. Our overall cash flow was positive for the year so far, so that looks really good. Cash balance on hands, that's doing very well too. I just want to share with the staff. I just want to bring it to the attention. There was when we look at the actual budget and the actuals that come in, the enterprise fund revenues are up, which is good, but we also had quite a bit of expenses at the time. And so I was going to ask maybe if the city manager might want to comment on that, because I did notice it was kind of a big jump in our. So I was going to ask the city manager maybe comment on what were the expenses.
Yeah, that was primarily due to complying with the supplemental environmental project, the reclaimed water that was mandated and stipulated by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. And so we had to comply with that, and I think it has to be done by October the 3rd, and the delivery of water.
Okay, I just wanted to bring that to attention, because we have a lot of money going out to do that stuff, but we're mandated, I guess, to get it done. But are we finished with that? Or did we finish
It is complete. We're just fine-tuning the pumps at the wastewater treatment plant and the swing elbow valves so that we can begin to deliver water, reclaim water.
That was a key point tonight. I just wanted to bring to your attention. Was there any questions on the warrants? Did anybody have a question on the warrants?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And Roger might be better to answer this than you. I'm not sure, because they're mostly about firehouse expenses.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, on the second page, you'll see quite a few, particularly right down at the bottom. The last 10 or 15 items there are all related to the firehouse construction and everything. I added up all of the items that so far, and we've expended right around $63,000 so far out of the $764,000 on the firehouse.
63,000, and does that include the 10,000 from last month?
Yes.
Because mine was a little higher, so I may have had some things in there that were actually S&P that I thought were firehouse. So, yeah, the Sergio Ramirez, that's all firehouse expenses.
Yeah, that was our primary framing contractor that did the slab as well as the framing and the roof area.
Yeah, because that alone is 34,000 this month and another 10,000 last month, so 44,000. That's the
No,
primary.
I think last month the 10,000, that's reflected on the top of the page. There was 10, 10, and then 14.
Yeah, but there was another 10 last month, I believe. And last month's expenses?
Not to my knowledge. We haven't.
No? Not, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I
It
mistaken.
showed up early, so you
It
may
showed
have
up
seen
early,
it. You may have seen it.
but I've only cut him 3 checks so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the All-Star Ready Mix, is that a combination or is that all here?
Combination of rock at the yard, base rock, as well as the base rock and the concrete container.
And 6,000 to date for the electric?
Yes, that's the Stellar Electric. You know.
And is that completely electric or is that the road?
No, that's it's about 75% complete. Now that everything is taped and textured and painted, then we'll start hanging all of the light fixtures and outlets, electrical outlets, and switches.
Okay.
Just
So,
a comment there, Roger, I want to say that the electrical went into the firehouse in addition to the add-on he's on, not some wiring into the firehouse
that's true.
for the washing machines and stuff.
The
Yeah.
laundry area, that
Yeah.
mhm.
Okay, so we're at 63,000, because that's basically my only question is that it would be good to keep us appraised, and obviously you anticipated that, so you've got a
yes.
number already. And we still have 20 more thousand probably, or that's hard to guesstimate at this point?
Yeah, it's probably about 22. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Questions? Okay, just a final comment. Yes, sir.
Where does the 12,000 we got from the insurance show up on, we got 18,000
Yeah,
for the
we
new
got a
pickup.
check for
We
12,000.
got
for a
12
car.
grand back, right?
Yes, it came in, didn't it, Tricia? Yeah, it
Okay.
did come in, the 12,000. I just want to make a comment that one of the reasons we see the general fund fluctuate a little bit is sometimes the tax revenues that come in may come in early or late, and that's what causes fluctuation. So if you're looking at the report in your binder, it just kind of points that out, that we may get it 15 or 20 days early, or we may get it 10 or 15 days late, but it depends on how it comes into the books. So you'll see it. Okay, that's all I have to say. Thank you. Any
Thank you.
questions?
Any other questions? There wasn't any other questions? Okay. Moving on. Library report? Oh, you didn't remind me to ask for public comment. All right.
Don't forget to ask for public comments.
Library report. Any questions from council? Any public comment?
I have no speaker cards.
Okay. Item C, fire chief's report.
Mike is here. At the time when I prepared this, I didn't have anything for Mike, so I just kind of gave you an overall review of how we're going through, and there's been some adjustments and hiccups, but by and large, the plan is on track, and that reflects in my staff report here.
I'm here to basically answer any questions. As far as the contract, it's going pretty good. I hope you guys have seen a change around here, as well as the responses. We're getting on top of the calls very quickly. I'm not sure what else I can say. Training's going good. We right now have gone through the driver operator 1A course. About 15 of your individuals were part of that class. We're looking at starting the next one this Friday, which is the 1B course, which is the 40-hour course. So we'll bring all of the guys up to driver operator 1A, 1B, certified by the state fire marshal. I think they've enjoyed it up to this point. They've got a lot of training. We'll be starting the EMT course in October, and we'll be doing hazmat in September. So we'll get all the training squared away and everybody up to the same level. So everybody has the same state fire marshal level as anyone else. Everybody will be on the same playing field. So that's what my agenda is. So any questions? I mean, I didn't.
Can I?
Go ahead.
Are we getting this thing resolved with Hollister's Human Resources Department as far as all these guys getting their physicals, getting all this stuff done?
That's one of the little hiccups right now. A lot of the people aren't going in and getting their paperwork and getting their physicals done. There was basically a hiccup, I guess you want to call it, or an issue came up. I had to suspend some individuals till they could get their physicals and baselines done. And now I think we've got everybody at least getting them done. It's taken about a week to get results back. But we've got 5 people today as they cleared, and hopefully we'll get 5 more tomorrow. And it just depends on how they did it. It's a week out, So as they went to get their physicals, we're getting the results back. Okay. And I am getting a report from our human resources that it is getting done. And it's a lot faster track than it was a month ago.
Okay.
So if that helps you.
Yeah.
And Mike, I do appreciate the council and the city of San Juan coming out and helping us, assisting us in this.
When are we going to be able to start taking people off our books and going from San Juan volunteers like the 2 individuals that are working the night, and now because and they're picked up by Hollister. I mean, this has been going on and on and on, and my question is, they've gotten their physicals. At what point can you swear them in as reserves, and they now come off our workman's comp, and we get the transfer going? And then that goes for some of the county reserves that we're putting a lot of time in, and I haven't seen them around, but we need to get them back because the program was excellent, and it still is.
Right.
But the overtime that is getting kicked in, not out of our budget,
Right.
but out of Hollister's budget to subsidize this. And I don't, it's got to, for the whole, the county, the city of Hollister, the city of San Juan, it's got to be eaten up.
Right.
But we need to just make that transition quick and
The
get.
plan is by the end of August, we would have most of the people back online and sworn in as Hollister reserves.
Okay.
That's the forecast, and as we're starting to get now 5 or 6 people clear today, it looks like we'll get that. You know, we have 57 reserves we got to get through this process. So, and I think that was the issue, is that it was an overload for our human resources to try to bring 57 people through the hiring process all at one time. I think it's also happened the same thing with urgent care down in Salinas that's doing the physicals. They got inundated by physicals. They can't just do physicals all day long. They have other patients and stuff, so they're scheduling so many a day. I know that our human resources opened a few more doctors doing those physicals throughout the area, so I think that's all helping. Once we noticed there was a backlog, we tried to address it, and we are addressing it. So trust me, I can only tell you it's happening. I think a few of the council members that have been a little bit, talking to me a little bit more, they understand that it has been getting addressed. And, I do appreciate Andy coming out and assisting me and trying to get this thing solved quick, because he saw the issue real quick. So I appreciate that.
So you anticipate getting 57 people through the process by the end of August?
Well, I know. Well, we've actually started back in July 1st getting the physicals, so some of them already are done, and those are coming up. Those are already back online, and then your guys, about half of them or a third of them are already done with their physicals, and we're just waiting for results. So, and hopefully we'll get some more results this week and next week. So, it just depends on how they're doing it. When they did their physical, it takes about a week. If you don't mind me, Robert, you went through yours, right? And have you got the results back? I don't think I've got the results on it.
Yet. It was just Tuesday, though.
Yeah, it was Tuesday. So by next Tuesday, we should hear his results. So,
Okay, and as
but
far
we
as...
have to get those baselines done, because we don't want, any issues.
Oh, sure. But as far as getting them off, what you mentioned about getting them off of our workman's comp, you will be in touch with our human resource person and let her
Yes.
know when...
Yes. Yes. Very much. We're communicating, and I'm not sure how long is it paid up just to the in-law.
If I could just get a roster of reserves for San Juan each month, that should be fine.
Sounds good.
Okay.
You have to get a roster. I can do that. I can in fact send it out tomorrow. I have it on the computer.
Any other questions for me?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Not a problem.
Item D, Sheriff's Report.
The sheriff.
I guess he's not here.
Do we want to read it out, or?
Well, we're getting a little bit more activity,
Yeah.
and particularly in the traffic stops.
And 4 tows.
Yeah.
That could be a good thing.
Parking 4. Well, okay. Any questions on the fire chief's, sheriff's report?
A lot of alarms, it looks like. Is that normal, 10 alarms? I don't remember seeing that many usually.
Yeah, it does seem a little on the high side. Usually 4 to 5.
There's still...
Nothing about the bank robbery either.
Oh.
Not on here.
Yeah, that would have been, should have been, unless, let's see,
Unless it's under
301 the Alameda?
commercial burglary.
Yeah, that's probably it. They don't get more specific than that, I guess. We still have a high number of warnings compared with citations, but
Yeah.
at least we're getting some citations in there, too.
Maybe they're residential stops.
I don't know. When I was in the ticket getting mode, I never got any warnings. Okay, any public comment on the sheriff's report?
I have no
Seeing nothing, we'll move on to public works report. City Manager Grimsley.
Yeah, basically, to summarize my report here, we had a little water main out in the Hollister San Juan Road. The crews got right on it and clamped it and repaired it and everything so that the interruption of services were very minor and stuff. But like I've said in the report, that section of the pipe is very vulnerable because it crosses the San Andreas Fault right about at the corner of the Mission RV Park. So it's very sensitive. Supplemental environmental project, the reclaim water, is on schedule. We've got all the piping in and all the swing elbows in. We're waiting for the testing and the headworks at the sewer wastewater treatment plant, and that'll be done shortly, and we'll start to test and deliver reclaimed water shortly before the October 4th final report that we have to submit to the Regional Water Quality Control Board. Pickup, as I've pointed out in the warrants there, was a purchase, and it was a result of an accident that occurred on our small pickup, and it was a replacement value, and our deductible was $5,000, and that's the extent of our expenditure for a new 213 pickup. So.
On the vehicle that was hit, we had to pay a deductible, even though we were the...
Well, we're
Claim.
No, it's our deductible.
Oh, okay.
Our deductible, yeah. Yeah. We didn't have to pay theirs. No. And the salvage value is estimated at $1,285, which we'll give back. And so our net cost is going to be $5,000.
Going to buy it back from?
I looked at it, and it's an OPG&E, and so it's got some tired iron in it. So.
I have a question on the reclaimed water. How are you going to measure that to satisfy San Luis?
The Regional Water Quality Control Board?
Yeah.
It will be measured on the amount of our discharge. Right now, when we have that excess water, we have to discharge it into the San Juan Creek, and we have a partial flume there, and so when we start to recycle, it'll be diverted into there, and then we will have less water flowing over that partial flume. It's into the creek, and so that's how we will measure the amount of water that we use.
Have you got any idea how many gallons of recycled we're going to be able to use, or how?
We're running
is that
about...
going to impress them that we can?
Oh, yes. We're running about 180, 190,000 gallons a day out of there.
Nice.
I can't use that much.
So 180,000, that's how many gallons we would have to use up?
No, that's how much is going out.
That's how much is going out. If we can,
But we don't have to use it all up.
If we can reduce it, it's that much better.
Roger, do we have any estimate on how our wells are doing? Because in dry years, we sometimes have a problem with both well 1 and 2, I believe, as the summer wears on.
We have variable pumps on those now, and we can control the amount of water. We've reduced the usage of well 1 because we know in the months of August, September, and October the phrenetic water line drops. So we're trying to blend and use more well number 2 at this time, but it's a balancing act. Well number 3 is offline, and we don't use that.
So that's how we've traditionally managed it. We
Yeah.
just use well 2 more this time of year, even though it's a little higher in salts,
Yes.
and use well 1 less until we start getting some rain in.
And the more we use well 2, the more counterproductive it is because of the high TDS.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No?
Any public comment on
I have no speaker cards.
cards? Okay, moving on to city planner. Is that right? No, code enforcement report.
And I'll let Matt take care of that. I prepared this because Matt was, as you know, he was on his honeymoon, and so I kind of prepared that. And so,
What?
But now he's back on board, and he'll kind of give us a recap of that. Yeah.
You got married?
Yeah, August 10th.
You've only been together for how many years?
Like 8.
Well, congratulations.
Thumbs up to Matt.
Yeah, congratulations. So, okay,
Go ahead.
back to the code enforcement.
Mr. Mayor, council members, in the report we kind of were following up on some of the weed abatements. One of them, we sent out several letters and didn't hear back from the owner, and so the city sent out a final letter saying we're going to clean the premise, which the city did go and clear the weeds and basically made an invoice and sent it, put it towards the property there. So that's now been cleared up. We've also heard some complaints, stray cats roaming on 3rd Church Street, and so we've sent a letter out to the owner where the cats seem to be coming from, and basically if the problem's not dealt with from the owner, then we'll have to take action on getting that taken care of. As well, on Marinus Court, there was some trash that was outside of a duplex that basically had been left from the tenants that were evicted, and so we sent out a letter to the owner. Didn't really hear back, but we followed up with the company that's kind of taken over management of the property, and that has now been cleared. There was kind of barbecue and miscellaneous things in the front lawn, as well as on the side yard. Quite a lot of rubbish, and so that's been cleared up as well.
Thank you. That was, I was trying to figure out, nobody seemed to know who owned the place, and so I didn't know how to deal with it.
What was the condition of the barbecue?
Don't worry, I looked at it. I didn't want to load it on the back. Of course, you could have used it out of your place. Okay. Any public comment on code enforcement?
No speaker cards.
You need to fill out a speaker card so that she knows. But go ahead.
I just wanted to ask a quick question regarding trash. And it has to do with Trash Day. There seems to be attracting a large number of people who are going through and pulling cans and bottles out of it. What's the city's policy on that?
You really can't do anything about it because once you put it out on the curb,
It's committed.
you know.
They're throwing cans out of the car.
Yeah,
cars.
I know there's one guy that goes through all the blue bin,
People
recycle
picking
bins.
the trash for
Oh,
recyclables.
Yeah. Mhm.
I've asked about it, but
There's no city policy on
not really.
Well, only if they make a mess, right?
Yeah.
As long as they're neat about
Once
it.
that garbage can is out on the public there, it's public property. Yeah.
Yeah. But if they were strewing trash around, that'd be a different matter.
Yeah.
That'd be different.
It'd be a nuisance problem, and
Yeah.
we could go after them. Yeah.
I think there may be a state law allowing local agencies to legislate that. I'll check on that, get back to you. Seems to be something like that occurred maybe 5, 6 years ago in the state legislature, which would allow a city, local agency to actually legislate against making fun of people pulling stuff out, especially recyclables.
I was thinking it had to be, go ahead,
Thank you.
Mayor. Mr. Mayor.
I'll check on that for you.
I know that it upsets Green Valley, or whatever the trash company is now, because part of their income is based on the recycles, and they don't make a whole lot of money on paper, but aluminum cans and things like that. So I think the trash companies are the ones
I'll
that
look at that for you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that was my understanding when Mandy came,
Right.
that she actually, or her agency had to enforce it, not us.
well, if she wants to come out,
Recology picks it up, and their revenue stream is recyclables, and if they allow all of that material to be taken out, it's unprofitable. And Hollister has the same thing. They discourage people from going through.
In fact, I think that she even told us to report it, if it was seen, to report it to Recology,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. I could be
well,
mistaken.
she could come out early Friday morning. And,
Well, I don't
Well,
mean
it's-
her personally. I just mean that it was her agency that should be called if
okay,
somebody wanted to.
all right. Moving along. City manager's report. I'm sorry, planner's report. I keep getting ahead of myself.
Wasn't really,
Roger?
Yeah, Matt will kind of summarize the planning report.
yeah, so basically, while Roger was out of the country, we were keeping an eye on the brewery building. We had kind of issued a permit to remove the carriage house or the garage that was behind the brewery building. That was dismantled, and the pieces that were still intact were kept from there. And so also, once that was kind of decommissioned, the asphalt, the paper was taken off of the roof, as well as the plywood and the sheathing that was underneath. And all the plywood, I believe, was saved and is stored kind of on site and will be used most likely in the project that will be rebuilt. And so basically it's kind of been a slower pace because the owner is doing most of the work himself and kind of hiring some guys to pull it apart. And I don't know if you want to add any more, Roger?
They're progressing. It's a little bit slower, but they're taking it piece by piece away, and so it's taken a little bit more time. Part of the emphasis there is that a lot of the architectural features wants to be saved and then reconditioned and then incorporated back into the reconstructed building. So we call it a rehabilitated building. So that's the process.
Is there a basement in the building?
Yes, there is a basement and part of the building, and the interior walls have pretty much collapsed, and so it's fairly dangerous to get down in there.
I was just kind of thinking of if the rains ever start, you know.
Our schedule is, as I met with the owners, Matt and I, and we wanted to be able to get the building dismantled before the winter rains, backfilled and compacted so that there would be no hole in the ground at that time. Yeah.
So they're going to remove the basement altogether?
Yeah.
Do they have any type of estimated completion?
We haven't seen the final plans in terms of the architectural plans.
So no.
They'll be there, but I would say this is probably going to take a good 8 to 10 months.
Okay. Any other questions on the planner's report? Any public comment on the plan?
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to know, is it a safety issue at all, do you think, on that site? Is it secure? Because when I've gone by there, there's not a complete fence around it, and I don't know if there needs to be. But it looks like a real open invitation for kids to...
We had a fence along the Alameda and the J&J Burgers. We told him that he should put a fence at least partially down to his rental unit there, because there's somebody occupied and he pays that person that rents that single-family resident unit back there, and he keeps an eye on the dismantled and components that we've been storing in the back of his yard. So we'd like to see a fence along there, and at least so we can control who goes back in there from a safety standpoint.
Thank you.
And then also, we talked about is that we wanted him to post no trespassing signs on the
Yeah, I
existing-
think there are some no
Some of
trespassing
them, yeah.
signs.
Okay. Any other questions? And no public comment? Moving along. Item H, City Manager's Report.
Well, the fire station construction is progressing. It's a little bit slower than I anticipated, but now we're making a little bit headway now that I'm back from my vacation. We had a little bit of a settlement agreement with the county on the P-tax funds, and so we met with them and we resolved that, and later on in agenda item number 5A, you'll be getting a settlement agreement that is very forthcoming and very generous to the city. Supervisor Anthony Botello was very instrumental in working hard and getting the full board support to bring this agreement to the city of San Juan Bautista. Our property tax sharing agreement, we've been working hard to try to get that there. We ran into a little bit of hiccup recently, and we've rescheduled a meeting Monday at 1 o'clock with Ray and Joe Paul Gonzalez and Matt Granger to kind of identify some of the issues so we can bring this to fruition. It's progressing, but, and any time you get into a tax sharing agreement, it's a little bit thorny, but it's there. The fire contract with the city of Hollister, we've had a few hiccups, like Mike has pointed out, in terms of payments and stuff like that, but it appears everything is progressing orderly, and we're getting the station working, and I think that overall the effects of our comprehensive fire program countywide, and we're part of that, is going to be positive for San Juan in the long run.
Any questions for Roger? I have one. Roger, when we get this property tax agreement done, and you're saying here annexation can be submitted to LAFCO for process, doesn't the owner have to come in and ask us?
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Once we
We
get
don't.
we don't do it.
Right.
Once we get the tax sharing agreement there, then it makes available to any property owner that they can come in front of the city council and says we would like to annex it. Then we can get into some pre-zoning and advanced zoning to say, if you annex this property, this is the zoning that we would like it to be, and then it can be submitted to LAFCO and then processed. And LAFCO is a formal application because you have to go through the state and do certain things so that the state identifies that area that's in the city, so we get credit for any sales tax and gas tax.
Okay. Any questions, Brian? Any public comment? Okay. All right. On item I, public meetings and committee reports. Jolene?
Yeah, I'm going to be a little lengthy on AMBAG here, on the Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments. They're moving forward with the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy, as well as the Regional Housing Needs Assessment. A tri-county survey was conducted, that's Santa Cruz, Monterey, and San Benito counties, about transportation investment strategies for the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and the Regional Transportation Plan. Conclusions were, the majority of the survey respondents drive alone and believe current transportation planning must accommodate the use of cars. That being said, there is strong interest, especially among younger residents, for long-term planning that will result in less use of cars in the future. Voters strongly support preservation of both farmland and open space. And So there are opportunities for incremental behavioral shifts toward driving less, especially by increasing the price of driving and improving public transit and the walkability of neighborhoods. And that was pretty much across all 3 counties. San Benito was a little lower in favoring some of the things and a little stronger on we need our cars. But pretty much all 3 counties felt the same way about supporting preservation of farmland and open space while still wanting to maintain the freedom that having their own cars brought them. And that kind of leads into a meeting that both Matt and I had attended last night. It was a workshop on plug-in electric vehicles, plug-in electric vehicle readiness plan. And the California Energy Commission awarded a $200,000 grant for the plug-in electric vehicle readiness plan. Partners include the Monterey Bay Unified Air Pollution Control District and Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments in order to streamline the process of developing a charge network, like our station, for electric vehicles. Cities and counties could adopt policies that include mandated electric vehicle stub-outs and electric vehicle parking set-asides in new construction. And that's something we might want to consider with our new construction going in. The cities that are mandating it, though, are using like 100 home minimum, wasn't it, something like that?
Yeah, I think it was when there was a threshold of maybe like 100 spaces. So like
Yeah.
with a large development commercial, if there's more than 100 spaces, then it would trigger having some electric vehicle charging spaces as well for multifamily. There's probably another number of units that would trigger having that availability.
Yeah, it might be something to consider, at least having them put the stub-outs in while it's cheap and they're doing the underground work. And also they mentioned possibly including those in their general plans, so that might be something we could look at too. And public and private agencies can also include electric vehicles in their fleets. There are many concerns with the electric vehicle, including something I think it was Supervisor Munzer brought up, which is possible reductions in agencies' funding for roads from gas tax. You're still going to need the roads with electric vehicles, but there'd be less gas tax available if state and federal goals for electric vehicle use are realized. Matt and I were talking about that a little, and he mentioned things like, well, how could they do it if they did it by mileage? What about people with large ranches and farms who are using their vehicles on their own property, and would they still get charged for the road? So it's on the radar, but it's a really confusing thing of how they would work out how to maintain roads if there wasn't as much gas tax coming in because there were more electric vehicles. So it's an interesting thing to me anyway.
What's the cost to charge your car? Do they have any?
About $2.40, $2.40 to $2.60.
Yeah, the charging stations themselves are very expensive, but they're mostly funded by grants, or in the case of Tesla, they're putting in their own. And that was another thing that was brought up. Tesla has different plugs than everybody else. The type chargers that Tesla wants to put in are 70,000.
Yeah.
About.
Mm-hmm. The fast charging.
The fast charging, the ones that will charge up in an hour, and you need 480. That's why it's so expensive. The type that we have, you need 240, and then there's an even slower one that you can use in your house. So there's a lot of issues, but both the federal and the state government are pushing a lot to have 50 mile per gallon cars by 2035? 2025.
25, yeah, 2025.
2025.
I think.
And the only way to do that is to have a fleet with, electric vehicles and gas vehicles. Because even hybrids don't meet those standards.
Got it?
That's all I got.
Okay. Andy?
Had a fire committee meeting, and basically you heard the fire chief tonight, so it's just an update at the last meeting how things are going. So I'll leave it at that. Intergovernment, Robert, you stayed. I had to leave, so I don't.
On the fire meeting, we were trying to correct some issues that we had with CAL FIRE. CAL FIRE wasn't present at that meeting, so Mike gave his report, and it was pretty short meeting on that. Intergovernment, all the agencies had minimal reports. There was a presentation by a group on a grant that is going to be doing a street safety zone through along the streets of Nash by the high school, and I believe one of the side streets that follow along Highway 25. And we're going to look at safety issues for that part of the county and city halls.
Had a COG meeting last week, and nothing really specific about San Juan, except that I'd like everyone to know that next COG meeting, they're going to discuss the mediation results with the state or Caltrans over 156. And I understand it was presented to the Board of Supervisors meeting yesterday, I believe, but I didn't get a chance to talk to Anthony and find out what the results were, although I know one of the things was that if they can raise the money, they're going to move San Justo School and then make the new highway a straight shot instead of putting a bend in it to go around the old San Justo School. So that's a lot better than the way it was before. And then last night we had a neighborhood watch meeting. Very good. We got a presentation on gangs from Al DeVoe. And pretty interesting. A lot of things I didn't know about gangs and their signs and tagging and things like that. So, but the neighborhood watch meetings are going good, and more people are getting involved, and that's all we can do. With our law enforcement the way it is right now, we basically have to watch out. But again, we're always advised, do not confront anyone. Just take notes, and if you have to, call 911. And then the other thing I have is there's I got a letter from LAFCO. Did you get that, Roger?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they're having a LAFCO and local governments in San Benito County meeting Thursday, September 19th at 6 p.m. And I guess basically kind of explain what LAFCO does.
Yeah, the executive director, Bob Breckman, submitted a letter to all the elected officials of the county and invited them to the September 19th meeting. And he just wants to reinforce the function of LAFCO and some of the operations that they do.
I'd kind of encourage you, if you have a chance, I plan on going just to know, in case someone asks me a question about, what does LAFCO do? So, okay.
It's a big subject.
Let's see. Any other report? Nothing?
Nothing on water.
Okay, I'll move on to...
Tony, can I ask something of Andy and Robert?
Go ahead.
Just something on that fire thing I should have brought up to Mike, but I brought up several times when I was on the fire protection committee, and it's just one word, and it seems to have been a little bit of the problem: communication. Just be sure and reinforce that we need to have good communication to avoid issues like this. Because I'm not sure that they were communicating with our human resources person at all, or that, It just seems like that might have, communication might have been a part of that problem.
Yeah, there was.
But on the other hand, the answer to that is that the city manager sat on those committees and was well aware of the process and the implementation, and he's the captain of the ship, and he's got to pass that on to his crew.
It went
And
way
if he
deeper
doesn't
than-
do that, then it breaks down.
Yeah, they
Okay.
were well aware of the impact that their human resources were going to have, and it just never got dealt with until they brought it up and said, "Well, you can't do this."
So it was a little more avoidance than simple communication issue.
I'll say one thing, that the city council Hollister, when they got aware of what was going on, they were furious. The mayor was upset, and they're communicating, and they want the problem taken
Good.
care of. But
Also, the Hollister Fire Department Union
yeah, I mean,
actually stepped in and showed a little concern towards the reserves, and
Oh, good.
what was that? So that was a good little gesture by them.
I'll say one last thing, and I commend. No, this commends.
Then we'll just say it's resolved.
No, this is for San Juan, and the city council and the city of San Juan stepped up to the plate and paid the volunteers, because our city manager said, these guys, they were going 7-8 weeks without a paycheck, and some of these reserves do not have jobs, and they're working a shift every, so it meant a lot to them.
Some were pulling 20 shifts a month.
Yeah. So Roger talked to the city manager, Hall, says, hey, we'll pay them, we'll work it out. And, so everybody was paid to a certain date. And the response I got from the firefighters, the county firefighters, everybody said, hey, thank you very much. And tell your fellow council members thanks. Because, San Juan stepped up to the plate, brought everybody even. And then,
We will be reimbursed.
Oh, yeah. We'll be taken care of. But we stepped up to the plate, and we took care of, we made it good.
All right,
But
Resolved.
good. All right, moving along. Consent items. Motion to approve, or does anybody want anything pulled?
I had one question, and I should have taken it to
You'll have
Trish
to pull
probably.
an item.
I think it's item, wait a minute, I went too far. Item D. No, I've got item D. It's the second minutes. Oh, clarification on item 5D. So pull that.
So you want to pull 5D?
Yeah.
Well, that's the action items. Did you want consent? You're on
5,
consent.
wait, 5D or 4?
4D, I'm sorry.
4, okay.
Yeah, the minutes.
Okay. Anybody else want to pull anything?
No, I'm fine.
Need a motion to approve A, B, and C?
I'll make a motion that we approve items 4, A, B, and C of the consent agenda.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, item D. Jolene?
Okay, on page 3 of the minutes, I just wanted some clarification on the second paragraph, adopt ordinance 2013-02, adopting rules and regulations for connecting to city water services. Is that the correct figure for reconnect, or is that only a reconnect outside of the city limits? Because I thought I remember something about a $100 reconnection fee. Is that inside the city limits and this is outside?
It's outside, right?
This is
outside.
outside. Applies to only the outside.
Okay, I think that we should clarify that in the minutes and say that it is, it says he's a property owner, San Juan Valley, who asked the question. But I think it should be stated in there somewhere that that fee is only for outside city limits, not inside. Because I think that might scare some city residents. Because every now and then somebody will have their water shut off for a prolonged period of time, their renter's out or whatever, and then they need to turn it back on. And I think we discussed a $100 fee for that, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yeah, and I'll make that correction also in the motion, because that should be more specific.
okay,
Says for
thank you.
connecting to city water services pursuant to, but if I just put a little, we're outside the city limits.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
And where was the motion, Trish?
Right above it, on page 3.
Oh, yeah, it's just the bold print. It states the motion. Adopt this
Oh, the
ordinance for
ordinance.
connecting,
Oh, yeah.
and she's going to change it to for
Oh, okay.
connecting outside city
trade.
limits.
I can
Yeah,
do
if you're outside city limits.
Okay. Motion to approve 4D with corrections?
Second?
No, I
Or
didn't
motion?
make the-
Okay, motion.
I need a motion. You made
I'll-
the motion.
I'll first
All
it.
right. A second?
I'll second.
Go ahead, Rob.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right. Item 5, action items. A, consider resolution 2013 approving a settlement agreement between the City of San Juan Bautista and San Benito County regarding payment by county to City of disputed property tax administration fees.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and just to give you a brief overview, this dates back to the city of Alhambra versus the county of Los Angeles. This was a dispute on how the administrative fees were charged against the property tax distribution. The Supreme Court of California ruled and rendered a decision back in November, December of 12, and it was in favor of both the cities that it should be reimbursed by the counties, and so the counties had to go back and reimburse cities for this administrative fees. Our share was approximately $24,000. We met with the county and negotiated this. The county and the city agreed to cooperate fully and expeditiously, to resolve this. And with the aid of Anthony Botello, our Board of Supervisors, we came up with a settlement agreement that's outlined in Section 2. And the Board of Supervisors adopted this agreement August the 6th of 2013, and it's in front of you for approval tonight. And I would recommend approving it.
Does everybody understand what we got?
We got a good deal.
Yeah.
And it's a good deal for them, too, I think.
Okay. So, any questions from the council on it? On this over here? Any questions from the
I have
public?
no speaker cards.
You said you had no speaker
I
card?
have no speaker
Oh,
cards.
okay. Bring it up back to council. What's your pleasure?
I say we go with it.
Okay. Resolution number
2013, 23.
23?
Was that a motion to approve, Robert?
Yes, that'll be a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Moving on.
We appreciate that,
Thanks
eh?
for your work, Roger, with those guys. I know how tough Joe Paul can be. So.
Yeah, how long before we get our money?
10
10
days.
days. Oh, it did say 10 days, didn't it? That's right. I was wondering about that. Was it 10 days from the date they passed it or we passed it?
We passed.
Oh, okay.
There'll be some good offset for the firehouse.
Okay. 5B, consider proposal to increase community hall users fees for nonprofits. Roger?
Oh, did Trish go? The This is just a follow-up from last month's agenda where we gave you a staff report and said that the fees to do a cost recovery, and here's Trish there, of the community center involves not only the electricity and the gas, but it also involves the wear and tear of the facilities and the stuff, and we felt that we had to establish something reasonable. Trish has done a background of other users. She has it in front of you this evening, and I think she can kind of give you a broad overview.
Yes, actually, Michelle found us on her computer and just made a lot of phone calls to update the numbers. It was done back in maybe '06 of facilities in the area. I think it was pretty close to when we had this one renovated and we were trying to come up with fees. So it shows the Roma's Grange, the community center in Hollister, and their other facility, the Veterans Memorial, although that's not all even comparable because their big room is very expensive to rent, more than we would ever, and their smaller rooms I don't think would accommodate the groups that would like to use our hall, the nonprofits. None of them had special rates for nonprofits.
Really?
Interesting.
Poor nonprofits, they have nowhere to go.
I wonder what they do to an house.
So in our staff report, as Trish pointed out, at our last meeting, we had said that it should be a deposit, a $200 cleaning deposit, non-refundable, and that's for the full year, and that would come out to about, $16 a month, for nonprofit. And then we were proposing a $25 per day use, over and above that. And that's negotiable. We feel is that some of the nonprofits, like that Quilters and the Tai Chi's, they have just maybe half a dozen to a dozen people, and they might want to consider something that's more reasonable to them. I don't, it's subjective, but I think the key to it is that we should establish something that covers the cost of energy and the cost of our maintenance. We have a man that's permanently assigned to that. On Monday mornings it comes in, Terry Batista, and he's responsible for going through that building, and if there's janitorial work that has to be done and cleaned up, then we bring in all three maintenance men to clean it up, Now on the private sector we charge $500, and then we require a deposit, and if the users do not clean it up, then we deduct that from the cleaning deposit and only refund a portion of that back. And we just haven't had the users' fees that we normally get at this time, but it's $500 a day, and they put a $500 deposit to be held, and the cleaning deposit must be paid at least 21 days in advance. And if there are some cleanup things, we can deduct that from the cleaning deposit.
Questions from the council? Jody?
Yeah, a couple of them. There's a fiscal impact amount of how much the city would bring in to cover costs if this works. But haven't some of them already said that they can't afford to use the hall even with the small fee, so we might not have some of them using it? Or is that not really fit into the picture, because if they don't use it, then we don't have the damage? So that's not really an issue if they just don't show up.
Everybody's sensitive to senior citizens and to try to encourage the use of the building. And then there's an applied thing that there's got to be a reasonable usage charge that everybody can afford, that's palatable to everybody. But what is that? I don't know. You know, everybody says, well, they can't afford anything. You know, but I'm saying is there's just got to be a balance,
A happy medium
happy
somewhere.
medium. You know,
Yeah.
what it is, I have no idea. That
And-
you know what's.
And the other question I have, because I mean, 25 or 20 or whatever, it seems reasonable to charge that. But the other thing is on that deposit, shouldn't we make part of it refundable to encourage them to clean up a little, make 100 of it non-refundable and 100 of it refundable, or even 50 of it refundable, just so that they get the idea that if they do clean up a little bit after themselves, that they would get something back.
Well, you know, can we encourage them to maybe do a fundraiser for
Yeah.
an offset? You know, for offset, giving them a chance of being able to.
Quilters could sell a quilt, raffle off a quilt. Yeah.
You know, Boy Scouts and them, they could do
Yeah, because
something.
on the last page you can see our PG&E costs in 2012 was about $1,550. You know,
Yeah,
just-
we're not asking to make money on it,
No,
that's
no,
obvious.
Just to want to break even, you know.
Is there any way we could meter electricity while they're there?
No, it would be pretty tough.
I got a soft heart.
Yeah.
No, on Thursdays I look over there and there's Meals on Wheels, and I see the people going in there, and I talked to Barbara Lopez. She called me, who lives on Second. She said, "We can't afford this." And I go back to the Grange in Aromas like every Tuesday night. My son has Boy Scouts, and they don't get charged. But what happens there, they have Saturday cleanup on the, you know, they do mow the lawn and stuff like that, but they don't charge the Boy Scouts. I don't know if we can have like a committee or something. I hate to charge these people, especially inside the city. I can see maybe tonight adopting something from county residents coming in and maybe solidify that, and then work something out with the local groups and say, but basically say, if you leave it a mess or we have a problem, that we're going to, you know, that's the end of it. Or I don't know. I just we gave it. We cut out the septic trucks. You know, going in, we took some revenue, so the residents had a little bit of problem, which is fine. Then we curtailed the businesses, the water and the sewer downtown to help them out. So I think you know, the nonprofits in the city. You know, I think maybe the out is. Like Saturday night, they had a big wedding over there, and I walked by, and it was all decorated. And I'm not a website guy like Bob is, but you know, if you got that uploaded to like San Jose or you know, one link to another, if we got that running for another 10 or 15 times a year, there's our out, because that community hall sits vacant Friday, Saturday, and Sunday all the time. And I'm saying there's a, you know,
And that's the balance. That's the balance that I'm trying to establish and predict, that if we can advertise and get more usage, but
Right.
then there's an inherent thing that if anybody uses it, they have to come to the realization they've got to pay a reasonable fee to use that facility. There's the wear and tear, the depreciation, cost of energy, cost of maintenance, and what is that balance? I don't know, but there has to be a fee.
Right.
You can't give something away for nothing because they don't respect it.
okay, let's say January 1st, we say, okay, you're going to use it 4 times a week on Thursdays for you know, for lunches. We charge, I'm just making $300 a year, but you know, it's $300 for, you know, the people that are eating. So that's $300 in our kitty, and then we go to the next nonprofit and just get a base. They you know, just to get some revenue coming in. And what can you give us for 2014 to help us out? And maybe they, you know, and then we go to the quilters and they say, okay, we can give you so much, but you clean it. But once our staff sees that it's not kept clean the next morning,
Then it's
you get a
loss
phone
of
call,
privilege.
then that's it. It's, you know,
Because when we rent it and stuff like that, we have our maintenance man
Right.
walk through it, and they sign it and establish the condition of it, and then when they're finished, our maintenance men have to go back there and then also establish the conditions of it. So there's a lot of labor involved on the staff level, whether it's Michelle or Terry or Armand or Joe. They have to monitor it before as well as after.
Well, I see Joe and Terry over there in the morning. They go up the steps, open the door, look around,
Yeah.
and then maybe, okay, we're all good. But I don't know if make some kind of committee to meet with these
Don't
people
look
and
at
come
me,
back
I'm
with
soft-hearted as you.
Well,
Look
I
at
mean,
it.
it's like I'm kind of.
You want to table it more?
No, I think that we should,
Well,
maybe, you try to come up with a fair alternative. Where these people, what they can afford. I mean,
I liked Robert's ideas about tell them they can do a fundraiser, because most of these organizations can't have
Yeah,
mechanisms
if they did
for
one
doing
fundraiser and
fundraisers.
made like $300, that would be like the $300.
well, I'm just saying maybe a base fee for each year, and then,
You think a base fee is more palatable than a per?
well,
use?
a base fee and
Yeah, a base fee would
keep an
be-
eye on them.
We're only talking about nonprofits.
Nonprofits.
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
it,
yeah. I understand.
Whatever they can contribute, and just try to offset it a little bit, but try to get people to rent that.
And then there is a differentiation of a nonprofit versus a community-based organization. It's just a bunch of people. They're really not nonprofit, but they're just a community-based organization.
Are some of these organizations that are using it just community-based organizations, or are they actual nonprofits?
I don't think the Tai Chi's are nonprofit. They're just a
The
community-based.
quilters probably are.
But we allow them
Yeah.
to use it also.
Well, going back, it's a community center, and we did get money from the county to do the restoration or rehabilitation, whatever it is, and but I had a couple ideas on the cleaning deposit. Instead of making it a non-refundable, we want a $200 cleaning deposit. And then anytime we have to do anything, we charge it at the end of the year. Maybe you got your $200. Maybe it didn't cost us anything. Because if you make it non-refundable, really what you're doing is applying it towards the expenses of the center. But like Robert says, if they know that, okay, we clean up and we're going to get our $200 back, we're going to have to turn around and pay it again, but still, they don't have to come up with another $200.
All the years I've had the thing there, to them,
They could roll it over.
Their cleaning says, oh, it's clean.
Yeah.
But to
Well-
the city standard, it's not. And so we get into an argument, and I've seen Michelle argue with people because it's left dirty and we have to go clean it up. And it's, no, we left it clean, we left it clean. And so it's
In
into
fact,
now a confrontation.
typically you do, but there again, somebody has to be paid, like Michelle or somebody has to be paid to do a walkthrough with them after they claim they cleaned it up. Just like
And that costs money.
I realize that, and I don't know what the answer is, very honestly. I mean, like the quilters.
My position is you can't give it for nothing. You got to charge a fee. What that fee is has to be reasonable so that they can afford it, and we can get a partial recovery to make sure that building has perpetuity and is available to them. So what that is, I don't know.
Maybe we should use this schedule, present it to them and say, this is what it is. Now, if you have a problem with this, come and talk to us.
Yeah, and you can see from this sheet here is the city of San Juan is very, very affordable.
Oh, yeah, they don't cut you any slack at all in Hollister.
No, and other places, Volado Park, Rangers, Now, what Andy said about the Boy Scouts, if they use it, it's a good idea. Then I'm going to have them do the maintenance around the community center and the free rent that they get at the corporation yard.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what.
Do they still use that building?
They're the Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts are at on the other side, you know, not at the big,
They don't use the
no.
community center
Unless
itself,
they have
right?
like
Yeah,
a,
they use the community center periodically on big events, fundraisers and stuff. And they ask to waive the fee.
what
But there again, I mean, you could get the Boy Scouts to clean up around there or paint the red curbs or whatever and, you know, work it off. But I can't see doing that to the quilting club or
No.
something like that. So I think my feeling is that we should go with this fee schedule, present it to them, and then if they have a problem with it, come and talk to us. 'Cause,
And also, as far as the thing of arguing with Michelle over the security deposit, maybe that should be done on paper rather than in a confrontational way where you send them a notice that last month you were charged,
well, no, what
We-
happens
we
is they
do-
come
we
in
do that.
here.
and then
We
they're
do-
still going to come in.
We do that and send that, and
Okay,
they
and
come
then they
tromping
come in
in
and
here,
talk to her.
screaming and yelling and saying,
Yeah,
"No,
okay.
That's why you gotta
cleaned
get
it
that
up."
glass wall up there.
And the only defense is that then we'd have to get a video camera and then video it to show, to say, hey, you said you cleaned it up, and here it is, you don't.
well, Roger, if we approve it, they'll be in here tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I've seen good organizations that
Yeah,
do
you
a
know,
good job,
so,
and I've seen bad organizations and so on.
Right, and it's hard to
I
distinguish.
wouldn't mind seeing a flat fee plus a clean deposit. Sit down with each group, say, can you give us $300 for what you're using, but also a $200 deposit, which is refundable.
Refundable.
But if everything's good, let's say start in 2014, 2015, another whatever. I'm using a fee of $300 or $400, whatever.
Yeah.
And that $200,000, if it's all good, will be just carried over for that year. If it's not, if it's down to $50, they need to bring another $150, just a flat fee. But I think by us approving this tonight, every one of those groups are going to be knocking on your door within a week, and you're going to have to negotiate with them. And
Well, you know, I mean, they know this is on the agenda, you know, I haven't seen him here, so.
Well, we have one potential speaker, but
I haven't recognized him, and I know.
But the problem I see with a case-by-case basis is we're using staff time again. And we're using more staff time to negotiate with each individual group, and then you have a group who's never been here before come in and say, we're a nonprofit, we're in the county. And by the way, I think we have to, by the contract that we accepted, I don't know if it's a contract, but the agreement with the county, we
gotta
have
keep
to charge
everybody
the
the same.
county the same as the city.
Yeah,
We
everybody
don't
has
have
to
a
be treated
choice
the
in
same.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that one doesn't quite work.
but there again, and then Michelle's idea of advertising the place, if we could get
It's a great idea.
If we could get one wedding a month or something, we'd probably be doing all right. But in the meantime, so I don't know. What's your pleasure? What do you want to do?
Open it to
Oh,
the
wait a minute.
public.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any speaker cards?
I have a speaker card from Bob Reed.
Hey, how
Hey,
about
Bob.
What did you think? I was going to ignore you?
It seems like the city needs to have income for the community center in order to keep it functioning effectively. The community needs a place that they can use and they can gather. So really, we want both of those things to happen. We want people to use the community center. We just want the city to not have to bear the burden of it. It seems that if we could find ways to sponsor those activities in the community center, if at the antique fair or one of the street fairs, either there could be some of that income set aside to do that, or groups could be offered a booth that they can fundraise towards raising that money. And if the city is involved in that way, then the city is a partner in trying to accomplish both those things, making it accessible for the community and meeting its fiscal needs. So I would like, I don't know how much income there is from street fairs. I don't know if there's an organization, I don't know how much money we're talking about, really. But if we had an amount of what nonprofits are, how the impact is right now on the city, and looking for a way to raise that money in order to make it accessible to those groups. And that's what I would like to see happen. I don't know if the Rotary or the Native Daughters or the Service Club or someone would like to take that on, to adopt that, but I'd like to see the community able to use that building.
Yeah, I think that's the underlying objective is to get it used, but recover a certain cost so that we can keep it open. There's a lot of energy in these groups and stuff, and if we could galvanize them to do their fundraisers and participate in some of the street events that we sponsor each year.
It all comes back to the fundraising, that idea also. And would we have to rework our agreement with the various organizations that do downtown events and say, hey, you have to allow 3 nonprofit booths or whatever for people to set up and do something to try to raise funds without getting...
Well,
I mean, because some of those booth fees are pretty expensive.
Every one of those,
for a nonprofit.
whatever, it's a rib cook-off or whatever, that's an individual deal with them. So we can put in there that you're going to give the quilting club a booth, period. You know, you're going to give
that's what I'm talking about.
We can make that a stipulation in the
that's us.
contract.
Those are our streets, and we set the rules.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
So we don't have to change contracts.
That
We
could
just,
be a dangerous precedent because then how many groups or nonprofits,
Well-
and what happens if you have 150 show up and say, and then
Well,
that destroys
no.
that whole street event?
the
Yeah.
one,
Well, yeah, that's why I'm saying instead of for an individual one, say allow 2 or 3 booths or whatever, and then first applicants get those booths.
right.
Yeah,
But,
something to think about.
well, I don't know if you want to pass this tonight or not, but I think, well, I'm going to do something afterwards, so go ahead. Do you want to pass this or not?
I'm
Continue.
against at this time.
I guess we're not ready.
Okay. I'm going to
I think we
appoint,
do need to do something to recover costs.
I'm going to appoint you and Andy. Wait a minute.
We're the
Yeah, you
committee.
don't have that many. He's the only one that's got a real job. I'm going to appoint you and Andy to a committee to
And
get
some.
all these nonprofits that are presently using this
Thanks.
building in one room, all together, and find out, tell them, this is what we have to do. Now, can you or can you not do this? And if they can't do it, resolve something.
Can we use the community center?
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
Sorry, just kidding.
You can,
I was going to say that.
and I expect a report back by next council meeting.
This is your fault, Andy.
All right.
Okay.
Right on, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Andy and Jolene are now on a
I
subcommittee.
got it off of my back.
You've seen history tonight. I finally went against something.
So I assume Trish or
All
Roger
right.
or
So-
Michelle, somebody's got a list.
All right,
of these.
I need a motion to table resolution,
23?
Until the subcommittee has a chance to examine it.
Is that 23?
5B,
23.
23.
Yeah, 5B23. I'll make a motion.
Oh, no,
to-
no.
It's not a resolution, it's
Yeah,
it's
no,
not
this is just
No.
consideration of
Yeah.
proposal, you know.
just consideration, there's no resolution.
So we don't need a motion
Ta-
for...
Table
I
5B.
need a motion to table it.
Yeah, motion
5B.
to table that. I'll make that.
Okay, second.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on. 5C, consider request by Seniors Council for representative.
It's council and mayor. I posted a notice again for the seniors council, and last night I received nothing. Last night I received a phone call from Mary Edge saying that she is going to represent the city of San Juan for the seniors.
Perfect.
I was delighted. So it was great. Mary Edge.
Mary Edge,
Oh, Mary Edge, okay.
Rick's
And she's
wife.
in communication with the director, Mr. Kemp, with the Seniors Council.
Wonderful. Appreciation to Mary Edge.
Okay,
So-
That's great.
So do we need to
I
accept
need a
that?
motion to appoint Mary Edge to be our representative with the senior council.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to appoint Mary Edge to the Senior Aging Advisory Council.
Trish, do we have to make a motion to
Accept?
vacate the previous nominee?
Oh, no, this isn't the CMAP one.
Oh, that's not the
Yeah,
CMAT.
but that's
Oh,
still
Yeah.
in the works.
okay.
But this is the seniors. There was
Yeah, okay.
not
Yeah, that's
nobody
the
on there.
same confusion I had when
Yeah.
Rick called me about it. So, okay, I have a motion and a second to appoint Mary Edge to be our representative.
Yeah, I'll
Make a
second.
second?
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Just as an aside, we did take care of the CBAT. We appointed,
Yeah. After much discussion,
okay,
we appointed the applicant that applied in a timely manner.
okay. That's it. Okay. Oh, were there any public comment on that one?
I have no speaker.
Oh, okay, thank you. Moving on to item 6, discussion items. A general plan.
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Matt and I have gone through and researched our task that's coming up very shortly, and that is our general plan. And as I stated at the last meeting, the general plan expires at 2/15, and generally a general plan, you initiate it and you develop a citizens advisory committee, and you get things going, and you hire a consultant and get things moving, and it takes sometimes a year, maybe 2, and I've seen like the county of Monterey, they've been at it 7 years. You know, the county now is culminating theirs and going through their EIR, and they're into it by $1.2 or $1.4 million or something like that. Matt and I looked at it, and we felt that our general plan has a lot of good features in it. It just has to be massaged and developed. As you recall, we're embarked upon the housing element, and it's in the process, and Matt's following that up with the HCD and on a weekly basis to make sure it's moving right along. And the other elements, you know, the land use element, transportation, conservation, open space, historical, you know, all of those have to be addressed and then brought up. And so Matt, as a Cal Poly graduate, he was familiar with their curriculum and academics to where they encourage a hands-on approach, and he's approached Cal Poly, and I'll turn it over to Matt, and he's done an excellent job of interfacing with them.
Yeah, so I'll follow up with that, but just to set the stage, the last general plan that was done in San Juan Bautista in 1998, it started in June 95, and it was not to exceed $50,000. It ended up taking about 3 years, and again, the person or the advisory committee was not to max 15 people. So just so you have that idea in mind. And so having that number of 50,000, not to exceed 50,000, Roger and I were kind of talking and using inflation of 2%, that 50,000 basically going from 98 to this point we're at now, just to kind of compare apple to apple, it's about 71,000 at a 2% inflation, and all the way up using a 3% would be about 85,000. And so anyways, going to talking to Cal Poly, I reached out to them because their school year starts, late September, and so kind of since we've been talking about this for about a month and a half, since I've been on board, I reached out to them, and luckily they had one of the professors that was still looking for an assignment, and so basically they have a master's students class of second-year master's students. So I was expecting that we would get kind of some bachelor students working in the undergrad. So I was surprised, enjoyed to find out that it was master's students. So, and their second year, the professor that would be working with us, and I've had as a professor, is Cornelius Nuorso, and he has a PhD as well as he's AICP certified and has worked on many general plans with his students. And if you guys are interested, I can direct you to some of the ones that they've produced, and you can find them online as well. And they've all been successful. And so this general plan update, they project it takes about 9 months. So the first 6 months, they basically kind of do the research and they come up with the draft. The final 3 months, kind of making adjustments and edits, kind of getting input and things like that. So basically, if we decide to go with this kind of schedule, basically September 2013 to June 2014, and then as well as doing the general plan, we also have to work on the EIR, which would follow the general plan, which would be scheduled to follow it next year, the next school year, September 2014 to June 2015. And that would be a smaller group of students and professors, and so I understand that would probably be a lesser cost. The cost that is proposed in the proposal that we received from Cal Poly basically covers the students and professors' travel, materials, and printing. The cost and proposal that they brought up to us, which we want to provide you tonight, is $36,000 for the general plan update. And as I said, the EIR would be next year, but it's not included. And then, these payments, they're asking that they come in 4 payments of $9,000, starting kind of if we decide to use Cal Poly. And so, as Roger said, kind of the next steps would be forming a general plan advisory committee. And so we'd be looking to get about 12 to 15 members, and we would like to have that group assembled basically late September, when Cal Poly would be basically starting this general plan update if we decided to go with them. So we wanted to kind of get discussion tonight, what you guys felt, and then we would take that information and go forward to Planning Commission next month and get their input, as well as hopefully come back with an approval the next City Council meeting. And then just kind of as another note, there's an attachment A, which is basically the scope and the layout of the activities for how this general plan update would happen.
The cost sounds very reasonable. I mean, compared to what some other numbers that were thrown around. And that, Roger, do you feel we could find these funds in the budget to do that?
Yes, particularly because it's paid over a 4 installment program, where there's one in initiating the contract in September, another one in December, and then another one in March and in June. And so it's plausible to blend it into our cash flow and revenue stream and stuff like that. And I think it's workable. I think that Cal Poly students have got a tremendous reputation of getting in and hands-on, rolling up their sleeves, with Matt leading it, and we get a lot of good citizen advisory committees. I think it can go very well. I think our planning commission has already started to do some extrapolation and work on concepts of the sphere of influence and the area that they would like to take a look at. And then once that's established, then your circulation, your noise, your safety, and all of the mandatory elements, as well as some of the optional elements, can blend in. We have an excellent historical resources element, and I think we just have to fine-tune that.
One other question, the housing element, that thing's been dragging on for years. And I remember one time Matthew's son saying he wanted $15,000 just to do that one element, and with no guarantees apparently. But
That's the state now, right? I mean, that's up for.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean the element's been written, and I think it's at the state
well,
for approval.
I mean, could we use?
They're not
We
gonna
wouldn't have to go through that again.
No, basically the housing element, once it's ironed out, and I have a over the phone conversation tomorrow with one of the guys to kind of talk about it. But once that's received and approved, then that's basically checked off the list and won't need to be prepared in the general plan. It'll just be inserted. So actually, we would be, having less mandatory elements to do.
Well, and then
that
the
one.
nice part about that is that once we get that, then we can apply for block grants. And
Right.
It is on a shorter cycle. It's on a 3-year.
It's 4.
4-year. It's on a 4-year cycle. So your general
before
plan
to-
for like usually 15, 20 years.
4 to 5. Yeah.
The housing will be every 4 years, but it's now just about done. So I can worry about that part.
And make no bones about it, all the elements, the safety, the noise, the conservation, historical elements have to be massaged and brought forth. The most contentious is the land use. And when you get into that, every general plan I've been associated with, it's when you get into the land use and designating the highest and best use and what land should be done, that's the most controversial, and that takes the longest.
The only comment I have is, Cal Poly has a wonderful reputation. They've done a lot of this stuff. But if you're going to contract with somebody to do something that's important to the city, you might want a presentation for maybe the professor and maybe a couple of the students, although maybe they won't be back until late September, I don't know. And one of the things you might consider is having the professor appear with some examples of work and that sort of thing, and so you can ask questions, maybe have a joint special meeting with the planning commission. Save yourself a lot of time, and do it within the next couple of weeks. And I'm sure there'll be a contract involved, and Cal Poly probably provides that,
And they have
is this something we have to go out to
they have
bid?
sent us a draft copy of the agreement, and we've gone through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Is this something we have to go out to bid for?
No.
Because I don't think any private company could beat that kind of. Not when you told me $850,000 for one.
Yeah. I mean,
Scared me to death.
yeah. I mean, even just the information I gave the last meeting about City of Capitola, and they were up there in the high 100,000s, and I think 3 or 4 years in. So I mean, having gone through the program and seeing how it works, and Cal Poly is kind of always on the cutting edge, and so the product that you are getting is that on the cutting edge. Students are always pushed, as well as second-year master's students, which these students already have degrees in their different fields, and so they're going to be able to bring a lot to the table. And then as well as having that schedule with being attached to the school curriculum, it's going to keep us on path where a lot of times they can the general plan can be stopped or go these different ways. And so Cal Poly has a lot of outreach and a set program to kind of keep everything going, and a lot of meetings along the way, and that's something you can kind of see in that attachment, broken down through the months, and making presentations and just different things to council. And but I think that's an excellent idea about getting a kind of pre-presentation, which I mean, even for me, I can kind of pull up a lot of that information. I obviously don't want to overload you guys, but that's something I can kind of pull off of the website and share.
Well, should we go with George's suggestion and have a...
If that is the direction of the council, you like this, let us take and run with it and get the professors and set up some joint meetings and make a presentation. Right. Our schedule is that we were anticipating that if you agreeable with this, we were going to bring back a formal contract in the month of September to the council.
Okay.
And between now and then, we'll have some joint meetings and then make a presentation and solidify the process.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I think that's a good idea George had, but I wonder, in the interest of time, if the best way to do it might be a simple remote telephone call with him, rather than trying to bring everybody together in one room at this point. I think we're going to be having a lot of meetings as things go along, but I can see the point of having at least a telephone conversation with I'll call him the consultant, for lack of a better way to put it. But
Who would be on our end of the phone call?
What's that?
Who would be on our end of the phone call?
I would like the idea of both the Planning Commission and the City Council.
Okay, and so why don't you leave it to the professor whether to actually appear before you then? I mean,
Yeah.
If it's particularly burdensome or something, that's fine, let him call in.
Yeah.
I would
If he can be here, I think that's probably preferable.
I would prefer that we all were physically present.
Okay.
And we have a planning commission meeting September the 3rd, and that could be a joint meeting. It's
I
a
was
real
gonna
light
ask if we
meeting,
can.
and there's nothing pressing on that, and that would be an opportunity. And,
Yep.
and Matt can
all right.
touch
Yeah,
base with
that's
the
fine.
professor.
September 3rd works for me. Does that work for?
Let me amend something I said a minute ago, too. I just checked the code, and when professional services are involved, which these are, the city manager is required to get some estimates. So I would suggest that if Roger can, you contact 2 or 3 other planning firms and just get a cost estimate rather than a full full proposal.
So an estimate
Just
is
so we
all
know what
that's.
we're dealing with cost-wise, and so that if determination is made to take calling, we can do it on the basis of their professional competence, because we know, from their presentation and from their examples of work, they are competent. And secondly, their prices, what we can afford.
And then I just wanted to say this is a pretty thorough scope of activities that he's written out, and I like that he's also included the deliverables down here at the bottom of what we would actually receive from them in the form of the reports and the draft general plan and electronic copies and all that sort of thing. And also, I just wanted to mention, for Matt's benefit, this is something that we've discussed as a council on numerous occasions on various activities, but we, I think, would want to make sure that the mission is involved, that the state parks are involved, the strategic planning committee that we have formed, and possibly Vision of San Benito County could be useful. Also, Bob, are you on that Vision of San Benito County? Is that a committee, or what is that exactly?
It's an entity within the Community Foundation. It's a project of the Community Foundation.
Okay. And it's a county-based group?
Yes.
What, Julie Morse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
And there's probably other ones I'm missing, but those are some of the main ones. That's all.
okay, it's a consensus that we're going to have a special meeting with the Planning Commission on the 3rd of September.
If the professor's available.
Yeah, they'll probably be able to have some representation. I know the professor himself, he's out of the country.
What day is that?
I think
Oh.
they have their small window of time to, have a vacation, I guess, during the summer. But I'll touch base with him, see when he's getting back, as well as see when, possibly the director of the City and Regional Planning Department, I'm sure they'll have some representation. So I'll
there's
touch
like a
base.
director of the overall
Yeah.
projects.
Yeah, and I've kind of been in contact with her as well as several professors to see kind of, which professor's class would work best with the needs of San Juan Bautista. So.
What time is the planning commission meeting?
6 o'clock.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to do on this?
No, that's good. Mike came back. I don't know if he had anything to say. Mike, did you have
Good.
anything?
No.
Oh,
You're
okay.
just watching this efficiently run. Me a smart aleck. Okay. All right, we covered the general plan. All right, item 6B, consider RFP for legal representation.
Mr. Mayor, I asked to put this on, and since being on the council, we basically, I think it was, my goal is to get an RFP from all our contracting services. They could be, in tune. They can make changes. And I know that we had brought up Bracewell Engineering, but the city manager basically, we have an incomplete water project, so it would be hard to bid something that's it's piecemeal, it's not together. But I asked to put this on, and I'll be very upfront. I was kind of on this fire contract, George, when it worked out, but receiving the email that basically said you guys are on your own. You would need to contact, if it went to we needed to contact an attorney. I felt that, and I'm reading the contract that you guys signed here, that you wouldn't enter into anything that may be a conflict. And going back, when you took that part-time work with Hollister, I thought, I don't know if that's a good idea, because we've entered into a curfew. We did a curfew thing together. We're working intergovernment with a couple other things. But I was kind of like, wow, what do I do? I got the city manager out of the country, but it goes back to the first. I actually believe that an RFP for everybody is good, and it may be all fine. There's been firms that have been on the council have asked, hey, are you guys, do you ever do RFPs and this and that, if inquire. But I am the one that asked to put it on. I don't know how the other, the council members feel, but I'll leave it at that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's something that has been on my radar screen ever since I got on council, that this contract hasn't been looked at for a long time, and I'm not familiar with other contracts. I don't know that it isn't the best contract available, but I think we should probably look at it.
Yeah, just so that, we were kind of caught at one point where we had no representation. And we, that's why we hire, and that's why we need this person there. And when they can't be there, raises questions. We had no secondary or any type of other backup at that point. And it happened at a time where, Roger was out of town. And it was a matter we needed to address right away.
I know I've been approached by a couple other law firms about, do you ever consider or go out to bid or anything like that? And I had no idea. And George, I have to tell you this, the only thing was that when this thing came up about the, you guys representing Hollister also, it did concern me that, you know, I kind of felt like you've been with us for years, and I would hope.
You understand that our contract's interim with them.
I'm sorry.
Our contract with them is on an interim basis.
Okay.
You understand that we're not, their attorney left. They've gone out with their own RFP, and the attorney that left there, Stephanie, recommended us is to do this on a short-term basis.
Okay. But you can see what I was thinking is if we did get in a dispute, I would hope your loyalties were with us, you know, but
well,
I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't. It's unfortunate it happened this way. I'm not even. I went to the Hollister meeting last night.
Oh.
Because the attorney in my office who does it is out of the country, and so. But at the same time, we're all in the same office, and we all have, you know, the same loyalties, obviously. And if there's a conflict, we have to step down. And I sent you that email saying that we're doing this, and it's for the short term. And if there is a problem, you know, we can recommend someone else. As a matter of fact, Roger called me. Well, the first thing what I told you was in the email. The city manager, I think it was the interim city manager, Hollister called and said this is going on, and he said it's about the fire agreement. And I stopped him right there and said, look, I can't talk to you about this. And then Roger called, and I said the same thing to Roger, consistent with what I told you in the memo to you in the email. Now, it's horrible timing, obviously. It's just when we had the fire agreement and when we agreed on a short-term basis to represent Hollister. Now, if that's the reason you're going through this exercise, if that's the only reason you're going through this exercise, I guess I can understand it. If there's something else going on, I mean, if you want to have a performance review or whatever, that'd be great. But you're certainly, obviously, free to do this.
No, I really feel that, you know, maybe just to make everything look above board and everything, maybe we should go out with a, you know, and basically no reflection on you, George. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, anyways. But I was kind of concerned about that because it seems like every time you turn around, if you have to get another attorney, it's going to cost you $25,000 or something. You know.
The phone call alone.
Yeah.
Like I say, it was horrible timing. The only thing that could come up was this fire thing.
Yeah.
And it was something that was totally beyond your control and mine. And it's because somebody somewhere else didn't do what they were supposed to do.
But as the firm being an intern, you know, we're kind of hoping that, you know, we'd be able to retain you, and then maybe their side would have to step down. Their firm with Hollister.
Yep, that's us.
Right.
Yeah.
To kind of maybe tell Hollister that they
have to
can't
go get one.
interfere. Okay, that you can't, you know, because...
Or do you have to
this
get
is about-
two?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Well-
I can't, you know, what I know, my client knows. I mean, that's the way ethics work. And so if Hollister tells me something about a problem they have with you, then I have to be around to tell you about it. Therefore, I can't represent either. This doesn't work. So,
Legally, you couldn't have represented Hollister.
ethically, I couldn't have.
Okay, ethically, you couldn't have represented Hollister or San Juan.
Yeah.
Are we covered in any way financially, or is what Tony's saying correct, that we would have been left having to go out and hire another person because of this conflict? And so it would have cost us a great deal of money. So that is a bigger problem than I realized. I somehow thought your firm would cover it because we're contracted with you. But that's not the case. Well, that's not good. That would have cost us. You know, I don't like to spend money.
Who does?
Well,
Luckily, it didn't come down to anything, but that, like I mentioned, Mr. Mayor, when I first got on board, I looked at all the contracts and wondered which ones we should go out on. The other one that I've talked to Roger about, or it's off the subject, I guess, to say that I also wanted to look at the Bracewell contract. That's the only other thing that we have not really looked at since I've been on council.
right. I totally agree with you there. And I guess if you want to proceed and get proposals from other attorneys or other law firms.
My question would be maybe it should be directed to George. What's the attitude of the City Council of Hollister? Are they going to look for a permanent city attorney?
Their staff, this was last month, their staff recommended that they continue with an in-house attorney. For some reason, the council disagreed with that, so they're going to go out and look for a firm.
So they're out looking now.
In fact, just today, I think last night, they discussed at the meeting which they are RFP.
Is there a chance that your firm will get it?
I don't even know if we're going to apply.
But I'll follow up on that. Would there be a possibility, anything's possible, that you would, if an RFP went out for Hollister, would you...
I don't know.
So
I don't own the firm.
I know. Well, okay, so you can't. Okay,
Yeah.
I got the answer.
I have one other thing, Mr. Mayor. Do we want to take a look at this in January for the, prior to the June fiscal year? Or do we want to look at this now? Because I know Roger's got a lot on his plate to be putting out RFPs. I just don't know about the timing.
Yeah, that's another concern of mine too. We got some stuff to
We'll
do.
get
And
flooded with
January
it.
might be a better time, and it would still be plenty of time before June.
And within the next month or so, month and a half, it'll probably resolve itself in Hollister's position. So.
Would this be acceptable to you that because I'm asking you is because you asked for this. If we had Roger do an RFP, not only on the legal but on the engineering and who else do we have? That's the only two we have, right?
That's it. We've gotten rid of everything else.
Wastewater engineering.
Yeah. I really want to look at Bracewell because these guys are telling me that anytime we tell them how much money we're spending,
I think on Bracewell we would have to publicize it, correct?
Oh yeah.
But
how about if
going back,
we do on both, don't we?
Well, what I'm saying is on a discussion. Can we make a decision on Bracewell tonight? I would,
no.
No.
Okay.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
We can't even give direction.
But this has been going. We talked to Roger. When Roger came on board, and Roger can tell me if I'm wrong. We have an incomplete system. How do you bid on something that you don't know what the finished product is? Are we going to finish the pellet softener? Are we going with a different avenue? So how's a firm actually come in? And bid on. We don't have a finished product. We don't know.
That's why we haven't.
That's why we haven't bid.
Yeah.
But on this attorney thing, I think we should put an RFP out. I think it's been there for 2 years. I think Roger, you put it out to the firms, and if Wellington is still, the ones we want to go with, that's fine. But I'm not in favor of waiting. I've been doing it for two. I just want to move on, and I'd like to get that. And the next meeting, if you want to put the Bracewell on the agenda, I'll be for that too.
Well, I was just thinking of possibly, doing it in January, giving him some slack. But and then by that time, we might be a little more aware of what Bracewell, what engineering requirements are going to be.
If there, I'll repeat, if there are performance issues aside from this contract, welcome the opportunity to talk 6, 7 years, I guess.
Yeah.
8 years maybe, about performance. So please let us know if that's an issue. Don't keep it to yourselves,
I don't know.
because we certainly.
You want to do a performance review on Wellington? Or just go out for a general RFP?
Are you asking me, or?
He's asking you because you.
Well, I'd like to go out with a general RFP. Even 2 or 3 years ago, that was the goal of, sitting up here as a council, that we evaluate everybody that we contract with.
Okay.
And I'll be very honest with you, George, you can take it back. I'm reading this attachment C, and it's I think it's number C3, conflict of interest. It's a paragraph, and I go back what the mayor said. When that firm took that, I said, I don't know if I would. I'm not an attorney, but I said, something could come up. We're always trying to work together or do something, and then this fire thing happened, and I was like, we resolved it. Everybody, we basically got through it. But I thought, it would have cost us big money. So, if it would have blown up, we would have had to go out and find a firm. But that's not I think the reason is, I think we've been trying to do a pecking order for the taxpayers in San Juan. And you know what? You guys might still be the best deal. I mean, I don't know. But I'd like to know that, with an RFP. And that's my feeling. I would vote for an RFP now.
Okay.
But
so.
Mr. Mayor, may I speak as a citizen?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make a couple of comments because I've had some experience not only with the Wellington law firm, but as an attorney myself. And I just wanted the council to kind of keep a couple of things in mind. The rules of ethics apply to all attorneys. So if you do end up with another law firm, they're going to be bound by, the same rules of ethics that apply to all of us. The Wellington law firm represented the city of Marina when I was on the Marina City Council and did an exceptional job. He's been here for quite a few years. You have institutional knowledge. You can't pay for institutional knowledge. If you get a new firm in, they will not have any history. They will have to learn from the ground up. It's like reinventing the wheel. There's just something to be said for that. And I'm not trying to convince you to stay with the Wellington law firm. I'm just saying that these things should all be taken into consideration. The bottom line isn't always, just money. But if you do try to include a restrictive clause in your attorney agreement that addresses the issue that might say in any situation where there may be a potential conflict, you agree to not represent some other entity that may create that conflict, then I can tell you that the fees for putting a clause like that in there will be substantially higher because you're tying the hands of an attorney from his ability or the firm's ability to earn money from a variety of sources. You can't always know in advance when there may be a conflict, so that's a little bit of a difficult thing for you to try to build into a contract. And if you do, the more restrictive it is, the more the attorney is going to have to charge you because you're preventing them from having other potential clients. And then finally, there is the issue of consistency, because I believe that the city has gone through, prior to the Wellington law firm, a number of different law firms representing the city and a number of different attorneys from those individual law firms. I think Myers-Nave might have been the last one, and they would send 2 or 3 different attorneys. You would go through 2 or 3 different attorneys, even though it was the same law firm. So there was not the consistency that you have here. So going out to an RFP is great. I think you're going to see what a bargain you're getting, but it'll be an education educational experience, but as you review those, please do keep these issues in mind that I have raised.
So,
The end.
Thank you.
okay,
Robert?
so when did the firm actually go with the City of Hollister intern? At what time? What time were they
June?
in June? And between the two cities, we were in a pretty good sized contract with a public safety contract. So,
No, I think the fire agreement was wrapped up at that point.
But- yeah, it was drafted up at that point. But if any, with every contract, there's going to be issues coming up.
Yeah, true. But I'm sure you have there are other situations involving Hollister that you may have conflicting interest concerning too, through the county, that sort of thing.
But if we both have the same firm, there's
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
neither side's going to be able to
Right,
talk.
right.
Well, is it worth it to wait for a couple months to see what Hollister's going to do, and then we can...
I guess what you're saying, Roger, wait a couple of months, and if good law
And
firm,
hope nothing
and
happens.
then Wellington gets picked up, there's bigger money over there. This is my thinking. Goodbye, San Juan. I understand what you're saying.
They would be forced to go to an RFP and
No,
seek...
and then you know what? More likely, San Juan would be. This is my personal opinion, that if you got the money more over there, you'd probably say, you know what, we're going to bow out. So I see what Roger said. Wait a couple months for Hollister to say, hey, we're going to go with Wellington Law Firm. Well, and then
And if
Wellington
they don't-
probably would come back to San Juan and say, sorry, and I don't blame the Wellington Law Firm. You go where the money's at.
I just don't know that we really should be considering what any potential firm might do.
Well, there's also the balance of what if something else happens again tomorrow or next week?
That's true. How much time does an RFP like this take, Roger?
Well, you have to draft it and check it and then send it out. And a good RFP is circulated for a good 40 days, 45
Oh,
days.
yeah, I mean of your time.
Oh,
Your time is what, the reason I was considering January was because of your time, and I know how many projects are going on right now.
yeah, right. Yeah, it'll probably take us a good 2 to 3 weeks to, get a good RFP out.
I'll tell you what, I will agree to January 1st if this council says it gets worked on January 1st and gets sent out. You know what I'm saying?
And take the risk till then, because I don't
Well,
know that we
well,
have
I don't know.
have a
I'm not-
choice to take the risk.
I'm just saying, I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm going on what Roger's saying, I just,
Because even if we started it today, it's still going to take some time, and there still might be potential conflicts in the contract in that period of time.
No,
so.
we're 100 days from that.
Hey, George, can I ask you something? Being on intergovernment, and this is, I don't know, they're talking about doing a countywide fireworks ordinance, if you're stopped with cherry bombs in San Juan or M80s, and it's all the same. Would that,
That sort of thing would probably be handled the same way. Remember the curfew thing we did?
right, exactly, that's where I'm going.
That wasn't an issue.
Each of the 3 governmental agencies would adopt its own. They would be the same probably, but they would adopt their own.
Well, I guess my question,
I don't know. Well, go ahead.
well, my question is, your firm would be representing Hollister drafting it up, and your firm would be representing San Juan, putting it all together and bring it back to the boards. Would that be a conflict?
No.
It wouldn't, okay.
I mean, they're not conflict. Well, let me put it this way. I can't conceive of any conflicting interest there. The writing of cherry bomb.
Well, no, a countywide fire ordinance, but, you're representing Hollister, and your firm's representing San Juan, and you're putting all this documentation together to bring it back to each the elected officials. Could that be a conflict? Or if possibly if something were to I mean, you see what I'm saying?
No more
It's-
conflict that if you were writing one for Salinas and writing one for here.
Okay.
I mean, you would enforce your own ordinance, and so would Hollister. There's nothing, no conflicting interest there. As a matter of fact, you might even save money if you use the same ordinance.
Okay. All right, well,
So-
it seems to be the consensus is we'll have an RFP going out in January.
So we can direct Roger to, as he finds time, to have it ready to go,
That's fine.
Is that okay?
100 days, Roger.
Okay.
and not be pressed to have it in 2 weeks or
No, that's...
anything like that.
Okay.
And then we'll start working on any other contracts we might have. I won't say which one.
Moving along. Item 6C, consider request by COG for representative to Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
So I have that announcement. I've been asked by COG to make that announcement to try to find an enthusiastic community member to represent San Juan for the first bicycle and pedestrian committee. They were looking for someone kind of right away. The time requirements, this committee would meet 4 times a year, and they would be meeting 10 a.m. to noon. I'm not sure of the location. I would imagine that would kind of move possibly. But yeah, so if anyone's interested, please contact me at City Hall. I have some of these sign-up sheets, and yeah, we're looking for a community member. They were kind of looking for them right away, and I told them that we had a city council meeting, that I'd bring this up and see if there was anyone interested that's maybe a bicycle enthusiast that bikes around town and has that local knowledge. I'm willing myself to kind of fill in until we find someone. But yeah, I guess ask around and.
You wanna
He was the
post
first
it?
person I thought of when I saw that.
You want to post it, just like we did with the CMAP and the ones, and see,
I'm a senior.
you might get 2 or 3 people, who knows?
Okay.
So, I think that's what we should do.
Okay,
just
so
post it
they
like we
they
did
weren't
with
asking
CMAP.
for a council member or a staff member
No,
necessarily?
just community member. Basically.
Got to
kind of
get
living
somebody that can
within-
ride a bicycle.
Yeah, living
And-
within
Yeah,
the county of San Benito was
Living
the
within the county.
requirement, but I mean, we want to kind of have San Juan Bautista representation on that committee. Or
Okay.
yeah,
So you don't want to just ask Matt to do it, you want to put it out?
well, I mean, I'm willing to do it until we find someone, or either way, it's fine.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and post it?
Sure.
And just like we did with CMAP and that, and see, we need to get people involved, not just, we all take on these jobs.
Yeah.
And we got to get other people involved, so.
Yeah, I think their first meeting is in October, so I think there is some
Okay.
time. So, thank you.
All right, now, item 7, comments, City Council, Jolene?
Yeah, I have one. I just wanted to mention that there is going to be a meeting at the St. Francis Retreat. Begins at 9 o'clock on Wednesday. Sam Farr is going to be there, and they're going to discuss strategies for gateway communities to bring visitors to the areas that are gateways for Pinnacle National Monument, to bring in visitors. And I got it actually through a member of the community. I didn't get the announcement myself, and I think they got it through Bob Reed. And I am hoping, because I'm not going to be here, I would like to go, but
I'll
I'm
be
not
there.
going to be here, that somebody can be there.
I'll be there.
Good. Tony's going to be there. And I think it's important, and I think it would be important, I hope somebody is going from the chamber. I hope they're involved in this too, because this should be an important thing for the county chamber as well. That's all.
Okay. Eddie?
I just want to say one thing I told Roger. I was coming by here about 3 weeks ago, and I had my daughter in the car. It was a Saturday, and Roger's out there with a broom. And my daughter, 11 years old, says, "You know, Dad, you guys got a good deal with him." and I said, "You know, Brittany, you're right." He goes, "Exactly what she told me." And I said, but I told Roger, I said, "You know, thanks." And anyhow.
I keep telling him to go home, and he won't do it.
Yeah.
Robert?
I'm okay. I'm good with everything.
Okay. Yeah, I think I am too. I think I talked enough already tonight. Roger, any comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, member of the council, the Hollister Downtown Association has been pulling together, Brenda Weatherly, a wayfind sign program, and this involves the city of Hollister, the county of San Benito, and they're asking San Juan Bautista to participate with San Benito County and Hollister in developing a wayfind signage program. Many people come into the cities, both of San Juan, Hollister, and the county, and there is no uniform signage to say, hey, where's the Pinnacles, where's the Fremont's Peak, where is the downtown, where's the historical downtown of San Juan, where's the Mission? And so they've developed a program, and they've got to where Hollister will pick up 60% of the cost, San Benito County will pick up 30%, and then they're asking San Juan Bautista to participate in about 10% of the cost. And they come up with some dollar figures, and our share would be about $2,400 to $2,500. And if we are interested in there, you let me know, and then we can develop a presentation and bring it back. I think from a community standpoint, I've been approached in our planning commission to get into more signage in our community, where when people, there's only 3 ways to come in our city, is to get into there where we have signage to where it points to the historical downtown and the parks and the library and the central business district. And I think it might be, I have searched with city planning over the years to look at signs in and around the city of San Juan Bautista, and the lowest bid I had was $12,000, $13,000 just to do 3 or 4 signs, and it's
It must be pretty nice.
This is probably a good opportunity to tag along with their program to and maybe get a lot of mileage out of this to develop a signage program. They call it a wayfinding sign program, where you find your way around the county.
Is this just within, is this like out on 101 or 156?
This is San Benito County.
So,
yeah, it involves, so Hollister wanted to participate, and they would agree, and county was agreeable, and now they're asking San Juan, and I told them I'd bring it to your attention, and if you feel you want to explore that, I can go through it and have Brenda come and make a presentation, and we'll really get into more specifics.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I haven't, it's been a while since somebody stopped in front of the house and asked me where the Mission was. I don't know if there's a sign out there.
Mr. Mayor, I wasn't quite clear on the answer to your question. Would they be putting signs in San Juan, or just out on highways?
San Juan would be part of the program.
Okay, so that leads me to 2 questions. One, what about this consistency in signs?
That's part of the planning process, where they will come into your community and look and see and try to meld each community of what they want to do.
Okay, so we would have input?
Part of this is the planning process to go out and reach out to each community and find a common theme of how we can direct people throughout our county to see various features of the thing and promote it. It's part
And the other thing is, if we agree to the 10%, what assurances do we have that it won't be $24,000 instead of $2,400?
Well, we'd have to have a number before we agree.
Yeah,
to it.
we'd have to have a
I mean,
number.
come on.
Okay, that's all.
It's just like when you pay Keno, you know what the payoff's going to be.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so our share, right now,
My payout is-
they've estimated about $2,400 to $2,500 right in there.
Matt, anything?
Not too much. The wedding went good. Yeah, we had a lot of family come in from out of town, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I see why people get married several times. So I mean, it was so much.
You can marry the same one several times.
Matt,
Matt, I waited 48 years before I got married.
George? Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Aye.